Hi everyone, I'm Venomfreak2, and for this video I'm actually doing a voiceover, as you can tell, and I'm going to give you some art tips. So let's get into it. So I decided to draw Madara Uchiha. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He's one of my most favorite characters from Naruto because he's a villain, and I love villains. And he's dark, evil, he's got character change, unlike the main character. Let's move on. And he's dark and hilarious at the same time. For instance, like 1 second, he's like really angry at Hiroshima, but then like he makes this really funny face. And then it kind of gets rid of all the seriousness in the situation. He's interesting. So I decided to draw him at the final scene where Hiroshima kills him. And he's lying in the final valley's lake. And he's just like kind of mulling over all of his decisions in life as he's slowly sinking to the bottom. But we of course know that, some people who've watched Naruto, this is a spoiler. So you can just like skip this if you haven't watched it already. But he actually brings himself back to life with his Sharingan power, and then he lives out his life in a cave or something like that. There's probably videos where you can figure this out, but from what I got from the show, that's what happened. Anyways, moving on. When I was doing this picture, I really had to pay attention like where the character was and the background, because he was in water, so you can't just like draw the character and then draw the background, because the background really affects him. It's not like it's just there. He's like in the water. So I had to make his hair look... It took a long time to make his hair look like it was like submerged in water, or without the water there, if you know what I mean. And drawing his face was really hard because I was trying to capture his expression, dread, but also give it this reminiscent vibe. That was not easy because it's just such a hard face to draw, because I'm used to drawing happy people. I don't like drawing sad people. And even though like I was drawing him as like near death position or point in his life, I gave him like a more alive look with like a lot of red in his skin. And I think like that's a problem with like a lot of artists who especially when they draw anime, they just kind of forget the red. And they're just like, I'm gonna make this doll-like thing. And that's okay, and it doesn't look bad. It's just, it doesn't look alive. It looks like a doll. And I think that was like a lot of problems with my older art pieces. I didn't put any red in the skin, and they look like a glass, like skin texture of a doll. So when you're drawing skin or coloring it, definitely add some red in there. Use some like browns. I usually take like a light reddish airbrush and then just like brush it over the areas, and then just use the eraser at really low opacity to get it to the right intensity. Anyways, after I finished the easy part, which is the face, well, for me it's the easy part because I specialize in drawing faces. So next comes the clothes, and those were a struggle because I had to make like half of them look like they're wet. Like half of it looked like it's wet and the other half looked like it's dry, but I think I ended up making it all look really like it was really wet. So I don't know how much I succeeded there, but I think when you're drawing wet clothes, not when they're half wet half dry, but when you're drawing wet clothes, you want to give it like these diamond like wrinkles. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the part that there's like has these, it's kind of like water if you think about it, because it's dipped in water, of course. Like parts of it sticks up to your skin while other parts come up. So like the part that sticks to your skin is like this diamond shape, and the part that like fabric that wrinkles up around it kind of just outlines that. And another thing that's important is like to know how the body is drawn, or the anatomy of the body, so you can correctly depict the clothes either being tight or wet because the fabric is sticking closely to the body. And yeah, this is really hard to say without make it sound wrong, but yeah. And when like, for example, his abs, where like there's like this little dip in the middle, you put like a little wrinkle. I don't know how it's like a lighter wrinkle, I guess, not like a dark, like use a lighter color to kind of like connect the two top parts. You kind of see that, and that kind of gives it this more clothing like wet tight look that I thought looked better than it being like half wet half dry. I'm like, you have to see his abs. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, you gotta see it. I mean, I didn't want to make this fan service, but that's what happened. It just kind of became that. I go like, when I do my drawings, I kind of go in things without a plan. And maybe that's not the best idea, but it works for me. And another important thing to remember is when you draw, you should use references. That's at least what I do. Because when I use references, I know like what I'm drawing looks like. And then it makes it a lot easier, and then it cuts down the time it takes to draw it. Because when I draw things and I don't know what they look like, it takes me like 6 or 7 or like 10 tries for me to get it down the way I want it to. And that's usually because like it's like trial and error. I make a mistake and that mistake looks good, so then I'm like, I go with that. But that's like very time consuming and not very smart, because time is important. And now I'm saying this, I bet like a lot of people are gonna tell me, and a lot of people do, like, oh, you're using references, this is really your art, you're copying somebody else. And maybe that's true to an extent, but if you think about it, I'm using references for each part. I'm doing like references for the clothes, references for the hair, and you can't find like, and I'm not copying somebody else's picture. That would be different. That would mean like I'm copying their picture. But I'm using references from different places so I can figure out what each part looks like and I can depict them correctly. And I think that's what's really important here. And I don't think anyone should like feel bad for using a reference, because that's how actual artists learn to draw what they draw. You know, like to draw these beautiful landscapes, you gotta look at them. You can't just say, I'm gonna just draw a beautiful landscape off the top of my head and it's gonna look gorgeous without any training. Like, that's not how things happen. And it's not gonna happen if you blindly practice. I'm just gonna keep drawing until at some point it looks like a beautiful landscape. Maybe like, you know, if you like do it 1,000 times, it'll come out nice, maybe. But that like is extremely wasteful, and that's not practical, and that's not what people do. So yeah, point being, when you draw something, you use references, and it will come out a lot better. The final product will just be a lot better than your normal art, because your normal art, you have no idea what you're doing. No offense. Some people they draw stuff and they don't really know what they're doing, and they think that if they keep doing it, they're gonna get better. And like I just said, that's not true. So you got to look at other art. And also another thing is about looking at other art. You can't just look at other artists that you like. I mean, if you want to emulate their style, you should do that. But you should really just get all this from real life and real people. Maybe you don't like looking at real people, that's fine. Look at your favorite artists, but you really should just look at things that are real and maybe translate that into your own style. Like with the background I'm going to draw, I'm going to put a lot of water. I look at a real reference of water. I don't look at somebody's art tutorial or somebody else's art. I try to take what's real and put it into my own style, and I think that's important. Maybe that takes like a lot of practice and training, but it's important. You should do that. And right now I'm coloring the hair, and it's just not turning out well. I mean, I'm looking. Hair is just something else. Like, it doesn't matter how many references I look, it just never comes out the way I want it. It kind of looks like a curtain. Because I start with like all the soft colors, then I add all the harsh colors, and then it just looks like that. I think another important thing to remember is the focal point in your drawing. The focal point should be like the most detailed, like the best thing, because people are going to focus on that. So you want that to be like, bam, in your face, beautiful, oh yeah, you know? But everything else doesn't have to be nearly as great. And I find that like a lot of these like realistic artists I see put a lot of like unnecessary detail. I appreciate it because I get it and I see it. But a lot of people, especially when I read some of the comments on their videos, like they don't get it. They don't see it. They don't care. And they're like, oh, I love the face. And they put like so much effort everywhere else too. And it's just kind of sad that nobody notices that. And like, really, you don't need to put so much effort in everything else. It's kind of wasteful if you think about it, because only a few of those artists who actually appreciate and they've worked on things, like actually understand the pain you had to go through, and it's just like not worth it, especially if you're trying to get art out quickly, which I'm trying to do. It's not turning out too well for me anyway. But yeah, make sure like your thing has like one focal point. Everything else doesn't have to be as nearly as detailed as your focal point. Just enough. That makes any sense. Okay, and now I'm going to start drawing the water. So I literally just like color the whole background blue, or this like aqua color, and then I make these weird malformed circles. At each tip I make it like a triangle, right? And then I take that because I'm super lazy, and I just like make another one to make the shadows, and I use the powers of Procreate to just edit it to the angle I want it to be at, because I'm too lazy to actually draw it at the angle. Yeah, and then you take the highlighter, the white I used to make the water, and I just put that around him because that's where the light shines most, when it hits the body. And then I try to like make the other parts darker. And then you know what? I ended up doing this weird thing. I made half of them really dark and half of them really light. But that was a mistake, making the drawing really, really great. So I'm proud of that. And I guess like that kind of goes to show like how important lighting is. Don't ever think that my lighting is not important, because I think it like makes or breaks. Because like when I was looking at doing this painting, it kind of like only looked okay to me, but now it looked like a lot better, like a real finished work. Perhaps maybe not finished, but yeah, of course, but it looked more professional and just well done, because I don't put too much lighting when I do things. Like in my last one, I just kind of put a little bit of lighting. I didn't really pay attention to it too much because I'm like, she's in the front, everything else is behind her light. But here I really made that lighting really, really strong in the water and also like around him. And then I also had some fog. I did that mostly to cover up like that rocky background I was trying to attempt to make, but it actually made the scene a little more eerie and sad, which was the look I was going for. Fog kind of clouding up his eyes, even though he comes back to life later, but that's not important. And then I also added like this other version of the picture where I put like some red in there and then his Sharingan. But I still think like the best one is this, without any red light. And that's more or less it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That would be very helpful, but you don't have to. But really, it would be really helpful. So I'm kind of asking you to do it. All right, bye.